We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Kenneth Grant, Miami Dolphins rookie defensive tackle. Gonna go through these first 3 weeks and look at the good and the bad. And I think there's like two specific areas he needs to improve upon that I think can really elevate his game. And because you go out there and you still see the flashes of the physical traits that he definitely, like the reason he's drafted, and I also want to say, like, it's only 3 games. I'm gonna have rookie videos out this whole week. Let's refrain from calling anyone bust after 3 games. You can be critical, but don't need to call anyone the bust. So, looking at this, you can see the physical traits. I think the two areas he needs improvement that can really elevate and him get to show off his maximize those physical traits is one, sort of like recognition / instincts, and I think those areas he was better in college. And the reason I think he can improve and actually get better in that area is like sort of a speed of the game thing. I think he's still getting used to the speed of the game. We saw this last year with Chop. It took Chop a little bit to get going, and I talked about it earlier on. Like, I do think Grant and Chop could be on a similar arc because they both need like similar developments. They're both like very physically capable, and I think that's just an area he needs to improve. And if he gets better there, then that should just kind of unlock everything. And then another area, I think technically wise, I think there's certain technique he could get better at just in specific situations, and that's another area I think for optimism, because you can get better in that probably more than anything else. And you can see Grant have some physically dominating reps and then reps where he kind of just looks a little bit lost. So we're going to go break down kind of the good and the bad, and why I think he's probably closer than most of the rookies, the ones that are at least kind of struggling a little. I think he's closer to seeing that jump up just based on, I think, that traits that sort of project well, and we're going to go through all of that. So going back to this first play, so this is kind of a good shout for Grant and showing off his strengths and weaknesses in one play, and it's a positive play, but it still shows off some of his weaknesses because you can see the flow with this like outside zone toss, but Grant kind of takes a false step and gets cut off pretty easily by the right tackle, gets an early angle on him, and the right guard is kind of able to get even with him. I think Grant at this point does a good job after the fact, showing off great lateral range and kind of reducing his surface area so the guy can get hands on chest, and he knows to just get out there. So like the initial instincts aren't great, but I feel like at this point the instincts do improve in this play, being like, oh, I know the situation, I just got to get out there laterally. I took a false step, I gave the offensive line the advantage. I got to get out there and make a play with my athleticism, and then he makes that play. So I think this is a very impressive play. He had a couple good run stops in this game and a couple, rough plays. The Bills have a really good O-line, so it is a tough ask. But you could definitely see the potential in this game, and a play like this, I think, is able to show that off. Even though I think, you don't recognize the flow and the block that they're trying to execute instantly, you are able to adjust and make a nice play recovery-wise. Here's the pass rush stuff. He hasn't had too many opportunities. I think that's kind of what I actually expect him to get better as a pass rusher than a run blocker based on this, or a run defender, based on the early weeks 1 to 3 film, because I feel like the run block, I'm like, okay, he needs to work on his recognition skills, needs to work on his technique a lot in that area. And I think as a pass rusher, you can see like when he gets one-on-one with a guard like this, his little hesitation there, and look at the speed to power. Like if the boom hesitation, get on top of him, plays with better pad level here. I feel like his pad level in the run game needs to be better, but here he just gets engaged, boom, picks the guy up, and is able to completely forklift him. The ball just comes out super quick, but he does get like a nice sort of pressure and hit on the quarterback, collapsing a pocket, and this is something you just want to see become more consistent. And I think in like true pass sets, he should be able to get this at least a little more often than what we were seeing from him, at least in the early weeks where he just didn't have that many opportunities. So I think trying to get him as many pass rush opportunities like this as possible, where he can demonstrate his athleticism and power like this, and move back up, a pretty solid player right there. And you can just see a couple different examples where, ball's coming out quick, so he just doesn't have a chance to get there, but you can just tell he's actually prepared to fire off that ball, kind of set that up, hesitate. He kind of like, I like this part. He just looks more comfortable here because he looks like, hey, he actually looks like he has a plan and he's playing with a purpose. I feel like sometimes the run game stuff, he needs to be a little more specific with like his reasonings for things. Here you can tell he has a plan. Hey, I'm going to kind of aim towards the right guard with that first step and then stick that foot in the ground and get up on the center, catch him off guard, get him with low pad level, and then explode through the hips. And you can just see he takes the center a bit there for a ride. And if this ball just isn't coming out quick, and I think that's a problem for some of the defensive line and edge guys, is the Dolphins are playing so conservative on the back end that QBs are just dinking and dunking very quick, so they don't have a chance to get after the quarterback. So I think that's a reason you're seeing potential slow starts basically on both sides. It's a scheme thing. It's a players playing better together thing. So that's something they need to improve on. I think Grant versus double teams has struggled a bit. Uh, just needs to do a better job, I think, attacking someone and not allowing the guys to get into his low hip there. So he needs to be like, if he's seeing this double team coming, he needs to completely square up this guard and even get like maybe his hat across to the inside here, because then he would be able to avoid the clean combo from the right tackle and then allow him to get off. So he now gets moved completely here, and they're able to get that cutback lane. I mean, the O-line for the Bills, you got to give them credit. They do a great job. But I do think Grant, and honestly the whole entire D-line has had some struggles versus double teams. He needs to play with a little bit better pad level here. He gets a little too straight up, and I think that allows for him to get displaced because we know he has the play strength to hold his own. I think it's more of a technique issue in my opinion in some of the run game stuff when he gets moved. Like here, not necessarily a bad rep, not a great rep. I think if the Dolphins set the edge better, his rep's going to look really nice. But it's also just another example where he does get cut off, but he is able to displace. So he's able to displace horizontally, but the problem is he does get cut off. I think if they're able to set the edge a bit better, but Phillips is getting double teamed, so it is tough. So they're able to capture that edge. But this play would look better if, say, if Phillips was able to get upfield a little bit, force a cutback right into Grant. It's just unfortunate that I think, this shows off like just a little bit late getting there block recognition wise, but you can see the physical capabilities to reset the line of scrimmage like that. I don't put too much blame on him for that situation. I think that was more the players around him, but it just kind of highlights, I think, both the good and the bad. Here he does a decent job at least holding on versus the double team, playing with a little more specificity, kind of going with the flow of the play, still being able to like kind of split this one completely. So if you're going to do this, you do kind of have to like split it completely. He's able to hold on to them too, which is a good job. He doesn't allow either to climb to get to the linebacker. If you look at the other double team, they do climb and get to Jordan Brooks. So he's able to, I think, eat up space here and at least slow down momentum. That is a much better job playing the double team in this specific situation. I think he does a better job hitting his body, reducing surface area, not allowing them to like completely square him up and just wash him down out of the play and stick with it this time. Here's another rush where I think he's rushing with specific, like just has a specific game plan, fires off the ball. You can tell, he's being active with his hands, kind of showing stuff, stabbing right there with that foot, stab outside the frame, and then tries to hit that hump move. The right guard does a pretty good job. You can still see he is collapsing the pocket, and this is how you rush together as a team. Phillips winning around the edge, forced Josh Allen to step up. Grant is able to collapse the pocket and flash to the outside so Josh Allen can escape out here, which is where you would want to escape from Phillips. So Grant does a good job still being in his rush lane, and then Sealer, who is the one getting double teamed initially, is the one kind of just reading Allen. Does a good job waiting for him to step up. He steps up, and now Chubb is able to finish. That's how you rush as a unit. Very good job, I think, from Phillips being the initiator, Grant being the second one to kind of disrupt his lane, and then Sealer and Chubb kind of being the cleanup guys, force them into everyone else. Just good job there all around. Here's another area where I just think sometimes Grant plays a little too quick, and he's just got to be able to anchor down a little bit. Because you can see, I like when they one-gap him and he's able to fire upfield. Here he's kind of one-gapping, firing upfield, and I think he wins quickly, gets to where he wants to be. I just feel like sometimes he goes too much with the flow of this play, and he's got to be able to drop an anchor here. If he drops an anchor here, he might get moved a little bit, but that's fine because you're exactly where you need to be. But he gets too explosive and kind of takes himself out of the play. It's not a completely horrible play, leaving Phillips with a lot of space to work with to make this play. But I think, I would like to see them allow Grant to play with a little more explosiveness versus the run because I think he'll be able to play with more instincts there. I think he won't have to think as much. Being a little more of aggressive one gapper will allow him to show off his explosive capabilities. But you can just see, like, man, that's close to being a successful play. It's either the start of the plays aren't great, but the finishes are nice, or it's the vice versa. Like here's another example where on the back end he gets cut off by the right guard pretty nicely. I don't think he's like super late to recognize the play. He recognizes the flow decent enough, but he still gets cut off. But he's able to work through it, strain through that the whole way, get down there laterally, and still get involved in a potential cutback. Not a perfect rep, but just kind of the mix of it. I would like to see them work more stunts. Here he is as the crash guy, does a good job crashing, taking multiple people out of the way, Sealer's able to loop, and then he's able to kind of stick with it, get upfield, and force Daniel Jones off his spot. I think he just needs to show a little better finish here because he kind of jumps thinking Daniel Jones is going to throw it, which then makes this guy kind of push him out of the way. Could potentially even be a little bit of a block in the back there because he is kind of, it's an iffy call. But yeah, I would like to see a little more like pure stunt game. I think the Dolphins are bringing a lot of blitzes to get pressures. I think just relying on some of your best four, whether you're just allowing them to pass rush like we saw that Josh Allen sack just a little bit ago, or allowing like the middle guys to work some stunts, maybe Phillips and Chop on the field. I think just getting those guys, getting four of your best guys, out of your top five, at least getting four of them and just allowing them to have a true rush and giving them as many opportunities as possible, I think would be better for that group than bringing a bunch of blitzes because the blitzes aren't working and they're not getting quick pressure and they're allowing the ball to come out super quick. I think that's huge. Here, Grant had a struggle of a game versus Quentin Nelson, but I think this is a solid rep that doesn't really matter from a result standpoint because the run goes way away from him. But I think it shows like his power. Like I think it shows better technique. He's showing good base. He's showing good bend. He's holding his own at the point of attack, and he's holding his own gap here. So he's got his primary gap. He would be able to shed to the backside gap if the runner came that way, but he doesn't. And he's able to just hit a nice push and pull to shed Nelson. That's a play. I'm like, okay, you do that more consistent level, you can see some great plays. And then you have a play like this where you kind of just, it looks worse than it is because he's kind of rushing initially, trying to get around, and he gets double teamed, gets caught off guard by the tackle, but kind of gets washed out of the play. Just needs to be able to kind of work his way out of this. Just being a little more prepared, I think, initially. Because even like this is another example of this kind of bad start. He's a one tech to the play side of this run. He gets cut off too easily, which I think shows like he needs to be able to recognize the flow of these plays a little bit better. But you can still see the athleticism and power to work through the center and to basically force the running back to run into him. He's able to make up for it with his physical prowess in those situations. You leave him in a one-on-one block, he can definitely take control in those spots. I think pass rushing, when he gets jump set, so the Colts go play action, basically max protect, and they jump set him. So he's a little slow off the ball because he might think it's a run play. And now he's not able to like disengage and get anything going. It is a tough matchup against Quentin Nelson, but that's kind of some plays he'd want back. Here up the middle, 1-on-1 versus center, true pass set. He's able to collapse the pocket a little bit. Kind of doing his job. I would like to see him maybe have a little more of a plan there. This was week 1, so I think he's still getting used to it. But he does do his job enough to where like he doesn't allow Daniel Jones to step up. I think if Chubb and Phillips don't kind of run into each other there, they get a sack, and they kind of just allow him to escape the pocket. So he kind of does his job in that situation, that spot. But too many reps like this where I think he just gets caught off guard. Playing with too high a pad level allows the guy to get his hands into the chest, and he kind of just goes with the flow of the play, and the guy's able to basically finish and basically wipe him down the line. I think when he allows them to get into him like that from like more of a angle working like on a horizontal displacement block, that definitely will get the better of him at times. So definitely an area I think technique-wise and just feeling that better will help him out. Here he at least fights through a double team, but like another example, like he tries to isolate the one, but he still plays a little too far to the inside, which allows this guy to get the low hip block, which moves Grant out of the play, but he does show at least good recovery and core strength to get back apart and is able to shed late to help make that tackle near the line to gain. So, like I'm saying, there's a lot of these plays, there's good and bad parts of it, which is very interesting. There's not a lot of them are just like straight bad or straight good. A lot of them are just like having a mix. Here he is beating a double team. He doesn't allow them to completely. He's able to kind of split this one. Doesn't allow this guy to attack the low hip. Does a good job like separating from the initial guy, which allows doesn't give this guy a clean way to drop into his low hip because he's also playing with pretty good bend there. And then he's able to fight through it. Now no one's really blocking him. He's able to get off of it. And him and Jordan Phillips do a good job kind of meeting at the point of attack, making that run stop. And I would say before the Bills game, the Dolphins were actually doing a decent enough job stopping the run. Just got to be a more consistent thing. Here he actually was probably one of more his impactful plays, getting his hand up, actually forces probably would have been a touchdown here to Hunter Henry if he doesn't deflect this ball, and that basically forces him to kick a field goal. Probably his most impactful play from in terms of impact. Um, and just getting close. I feel like he's getting closer. You can see, like, this is a pretty good right guard there. He's having a solid season. Be able to create enough of uh, in his one-on-one. Like, you just want to see just a little bit more in terms of pop. Like, I know the running back's kind of leaking out to one side, kind of forces him to stay there initially on the outside. But he does, like, if these checkdowns aren't so easily available, they're so close from the outside guys getting there and Grant not allowing the quarterback to step up in the pocket. I think it's going to come home one of these days. And then he had some nice run stops at the end of this Patriots game. He actually, like, when they were going to run, he holds his own at the point of attack, able to peel off and make tackles, limit these run games. Here's another one where he gets the center. Look at him just blow Bradbury off the ball. Like, man, some just power. And this one, he doesn't even really get his hands. He kind of just throws his shoulder into the guy and is able to displace and open up the hips. The physical capabilities there, I think it's just, as we're talking about, some instincts and technical stuff that he can improve upon. I think if the game is able to slow down, I do think we'll see a jump from Grant this season. I think Jonah might get better, but it won't be as like a jump. But I think Grant is the guy that I'm expecting to see the jump out of the rookie group for sure in year one. So if you guys are like, come in, subscribe to the zombie.